Can Gardevoir fill a niche in competitive Pokemon? Right now, we have Regulation I as the current format, but it's not going to be around for much longer since it's going to end at the end of August, and the World Championships are right around the corner. So, really, we're definitely not seeing any Gardevoir to my genuine expectations. But I think Gardevoir could be fun to see. We got the Regulation J announcement for September, and the ladder is basically going to be switching over to that, which means we'll be seeing mythicals in addition to restricted legendaries on the ladder, while the competitive circuit is going back to Regulation H from September to November, which is huge because there are no legendary Pokemon out there in Regulation H, meaning Gardevoir might have the chance to shine. I think it's a little bit underexplored, and I think it could be still strong despite being a Generation 3 Pokemon. Now, what does Gardevoir have in its kit? Well, let's jump into the showdown window and get that part of the discussion going. Now, we have a Psychic Fairy typing, which is a fun stat typing for STAB as far as special attacks go. Both of these types like special attacks, and Gardevoir is surely not going to disappoint its typing with that base 125 special attack. It doesn't have much going on for it in the terms of the physical sense, but that's alright. We've got really good 115 special defense, we've got 80 speed, which means Gardevoir's a little bit on the middling tier for speed, but I mean, Trick Room's a thing, Tailwind is a thing. Gardevoir might be able to get creative. Now, on the physical bulk side, with that base 68 HP and 65 defense, it's not going to be taking a whole lot of hits, but it does have a really good 4 times resistance to fighting type attacks. So maybe Gardevoir might be able to take a fighting type move for one of its partners upon switch in, maybe. Now, with some screen support, I think Gardevoir could be potentially tanky while being able to do some massive damage to things. If we're seeing Grimmsnarl hit the field, well, Gardevoir is going to love having that base 125 special attack and Moonblast or Dazzling Gleam option. But honestly, I don't really look at Gardevoir as much of a damage dealer. And what really intrigues me about it is actually the supportive aspect for that. And that is because Gardevoir is a telepathy Pokemon that has access to Helping Hand. Now, why is this nice? Well, telepathy is an ability that protects the user from its partner's moves, meaning there are a whole lot of powerful spread attacks, such as Earthquake, Discharge, Lava Plume, all of which could be nasty to be hit by your own partner, but Gardevoir doesn't have that problem, and then it can turn right around and use Helping Hand to boost up the power of those attacks while Gardevoir's ability keeps itself safe. Now, do you have to watch out for Galarian or regular Weezing? Absolutely, you do have to watch out for that with neutralizing gas, but maybe consider putting on an ability shield and, problem solved. And the other thing about Helping Hand is it is a +5 priority move as well, meaning it's going to be going very, very fast, and Gardevoir won't care about that middling speed as well. And then there's also plenty of other options in Gardevoir's move kit, which I think could be great. And there's not a whole lot of telepathy Pokemon out there to begin with, and there's even less that get access to Helping Hand. And to be completely honest, your other option for telepathy mons, you're looking at Dialga, Giratina, Palkia, Noivern, Oranguru, Rabsca. The only other Pokemon here that gets Helping Hand in addition to telepathy is actually Medicham. And they're pre-evolutions between the two of them. But honestly, between Gardevoir and Medicham, you definitely want to run that Helping Hand telepathy support on the Gardevoir instead of the Medicham. Now, Medicham does have access to Fake Out, but it's got 60 in both of its offensive stats, and Medicham was in need of more of a Mega than Gardevoir ever was. So yeah, let's be completely honest. You want pure power on that thing. So back to Gardevoir. Gardevoir can do a lot right there. In the restricted idea for that kind of a format, I was thinking the fact that Gardevoir can stand next to the likes of, say, Miraidon with Choice Specs Discharge with Terra Electric, that could be extraordinarily scary. Like a max special attack, Miraidon would max out at a 187 on a neutral nature for special attack, and then for a maximum output, we cap out at 205. Discharge with Terra Electric coming off of Hadron Engine. All the boosts are there. Basically, you're just deleting the entire field so long as there's no ground-type Pokemon or Wide Guard mod there. Meaning Miraidon with Terra Electric, Hadron Engine, Discharge can just obliterate things, and Gardevoir is just there watching the anarchy ensue thanks to Telepathy and Helping Hand. So there's definitely that. And even if Miraidon didn't necessarily want to go for Discharge, maybe it wanted to go for Electro Drift, well, Electro Drift is certainly not going to say no to that extra power from the Helping Hand. That's for sure. And yeah, Miraidon just does so much insane damage. And then another Pokemon that I thought could be interesting is actually Groudon. And the idea here being Groudon normally wants to run Precipice Blades, but Precipice Blades, its accuracy is not good. The Precipice Blades, 85 accuracy, and people definitely still run Groudon, but this might actually give Groudon an excuse to run Earthquake instead. A little less power than Precipice Blades, sure. You're going from 120 base attack to 100, but it's a move that is accurate, and flying type Pokemon are naturally immune to ground type attacks, so you could put a flying type Pokemon on your team. And Discharge Earthquake was certainly a combo that has been tried and true for as long as I can remember playing competitive Pokemon. So, you know, let's bring it back. Let's bring back Discharge Earthquake. Yeah, with Zapdos. And honestly, you can technically do this in Regulation H as well, and we're going to get into that right quick. But yeah, you can have Discharge, you can have Earthquake. Gardevoir next to either of these Pokemon is still safe. And if you really wanted to, in Regulation H, you could go for Guts Boosted Ursaluna with that lovely, lovely Flame Orb. And Ursaluna just hits like an absolute truck, regardless of whether you're building for a Trick Room mode or not. If you had an Adamant Ursaluna, you could have that Earthquake right here. You could have the Headlong Rush. Obviously, we're going to have Facade. You know, the very, very standard Ursaluna stuff. But you could have this, and then, instead of Zapdos for our bird, Kilowattrel. So yeah, you could do something like that, and you could have competitive here, and then that way if an Intimidator comes in for Ursaluna, I mean, Kilowattrel gets a +2 special attack. It's got that sweet Discharge. It's got access to Tailwind. So really, you could do like something like maybe Gardevoir, Ursaluna, Kilowattrel in Regulation H, and then you could even put Trick Room onto the Gardevoir. So really, Telepathy and Helping Hand seems like a very, very tempting option that I think about when I look at these Pokemon. And even if you wanted to add like maybe a rain element, like you could have Hurricane there next to on Kilowattrel, not next to Kilowattrel. So yeah, you could do something like that. Like, I think that could be really insane for some non-restricted format shenanigans right here with Kilowattrel, Ursaluna, and then we can get back to Gardevoir. We have that Helping Hand. We could have Moonblast to punish dark types. Like, obviously, Grimmsnarl hitting the field is certainly not something you want to see for screens, but I mean, Gardevoir could just turn around and just nail it with a Moonblast and do some big damage. Like, when you look at Gardevoir's special attack, it's naturally sitting at 145 before any investment or before any nature boost. So there's only room for that to go up. If you wanted to, you could run a slower Gardevoir since Helping Hand is such a high priority to begin with. You could maybe have like a bulkier, slower Gardevoir. If you go up to 156 EVs on a modest nature, you hit 181. You could put the rest of that into your bulk, whether it be max HP and then special defense investment or even physical defense. Maybe you're trying to live a very specific matchup for a hit. So you could potentially do something like this, like maybe you put the 100 EVs there just so you hit 98, or maybe you want to put that into your special defense and just not worry about your physical defense. Maybe what you're doing, maybe you have Rillaboom on your team, so maybe you're going to run a Grassy Seed, or incidentally, in a restrict format, maybe you're running an Electric Seed because you have Miraidon. You can get that defense boost from the Terrain Seed. So now you're getting that 50% boost into Gardevoir's defense. You now have some decent IVs into the special attack, special defense. You could justify a Calm Mind here, and now you can go up +1, +2, and then maybe now Gardevoir is using some support with that helping hand while also being a secondary damage dealer as well. Or maybe you decide you don't want to go the Calm Mind route. Maybe you do want that Trick Room. You could have that, and then your last move can be kind of just up in the air. Gardevoir has some interesting tech at its disposal that you could certainly use. It gets access to Icy Wind for a little bit of speed control if you don't want to run Trick Room. It gets access to Thunder Wave if you want to slow things down for a faster Tailwind mode. And then that way, too, you don't necessarily have to divide as your EVs into Ursaluna as much between bulk and speed. Like maybe you can be like a slower, bulkier Mon, and then you can use Thunder Wave to slow some things down for Ursaluna, and then get Kilowattrel on the field, get Tailwind up, and you can go from there. So certainly some food for thought. And then another thing, too, that Gardevoir gets access to is it gets access to Shadow Sneak. Shadow Sneak is going to take advantage of the fact that Gardevoir's physical attack is so bad, because now you could have a bulky weakness policy Mon on the field. You can go for that Shadow Sneak. You can give that Pokemon a +2. And obviously the Pokemon I'm talking about is Ice Rider. So yeah, you could kind of go back to the Sword and Shield route of things with Ice Rider. Maybe you just have that weakness policy just to really throw people off guard. Maybe you're not going for the Trick Room high horsepower or Leech Seed sets. Maybe what you're doing is you're going for just raw damage. Like maybe you want Calyrex to just absolutely destroy things. So maybe you have Glacial Lance, maybe you have that high horsepower and Protect, but instead of Trick Room, maybe you have a third coverage option. Maybe you have something like, say, Close Combat. Yeah, maybe you have something like that. You go for Shadow Sneak. Calyrex takes like probably next to nothing off of that Gardevoir. And yeah, you hit +2. Well, now Calyrex is going to do some massive damage, especially if Calyrex is already set up and ready to go. And maybe you already have Trick Room on the field. So like you can maybe do some crazy things. And I think what I'm going to do right quick is I'm just going to jump out and talk about some different team ideas between Regulation H and then Regulation I/Regulation J, because honestly, a lot of mythical Pokemon might be able to just benefit from the fact that Gardevoir has that helping hand. So let's just dive right into that. So as far as Regulation H goes, I was thinking you can kind of go for like maybe a hyper offensive team like this, because what I was thinking was you could have like a slow Trick Room mode where Gardevoir can go into Trick Room paired with Rillaboom having access to Fake Out, and then that way too you could pivot Rillaboom out with U-turn into Ursaluna, and then you could just do a lot of damage, and then you have Dondozo as a secondary Trick Room attacker. Like you could have Gardevoir come in here and get Trick Room up, pivot into your Ursaluna, you have your helping hand, you have your Guts boost thanks to the Flame Orb. Now your Earthquakes are essentially destroying stuff, and because people like to run Incineroar, well, Incineroar is not going to love to switch in on either a just field spreading damage of Earthquake or even a specified Headlong Rush or Facade, so you do have that. And then if you didn't want to have the Trick Room mode, you got the Kilowattrel with Tailwind, you have Discharge, you have Air Slash. Originally I was thinking about maybe Hurricane, but unless you have Rain on the field or think you're going to be going up to against Rain specific teams, like have the Air Slash just for a little bit more of the accuracy consistency, but you could go for the Air Slash. And instead of Terra Electric like what I currently have on the screen, I was thinking maybe you could go for Terra Ghost. And then this way you can dodge Fake Out with Kilowattrel, and you can go for some big damage with Discharge and Air Slash, especially if your opponent does have an Incineroar, because then you can get a competitive boost to a +2 boost to your special attack. So now you're just destroying things with Kilowattrel with that helping hand boost. And on top of that too, you could use Kilowattrel's Wind Power ability instead. So basically it'll gain the charge effect, meaning Kilowattrel's next electric type move is going to be hitting all the harder when it gets hit with a wind move, such as say Tailwind. And the nice thing here too is that's not just limited to your own Tailwind, that's also going to be relatively handy. Actually, I think it's not just limited to your own Tailwind. It might work too with your opponent's Tailwind. I would actually have to double check that myself. But honestly, I think that could be really, really spicy as a potential option for wind power instead of competitive. But I really like the competitive there for Kilowattrel. And then, as I mentioned too, you could have like the pivoting support with Rillaboom with U-turn. You could put in Incineroar here and then get Intimidate support as well. I really like Assault Vested Rillaboom since it's naturally faster than Incineroar, meaning it has the faster Fake Out. So you could potentially Fake Out an Incineroar before they can go for Fake Out, and you could just go for some damage with your partner Pokemon, or even just try to set up that Trick Room with the Gardevoir. And then, as I mentioned, Dondozo is a very, very slow Pokemon. It's also got the Unaware ability, which is obviously stupid, and everyone knows what Dondozo does at this point. But you have base 35 speed, so if you're not playing in the Tailwind mode and you're looking to just have like that fourth option for a bruiser of a Pokemon to round out your 4 Trick Room Mon team, like you could have that Dondozo, or you go for the chaotic fast mode. You have Dondozo and Tatsugiri, you have Kilowattrel, and then maybe you have Gardevoir there as well, just for some helping hand support. Now, to get Dondozo and Gardevoir on the field together at the same time while Dondozo has the boost, you kind of have to be a little bit creative. But what you could potentially do, and this is kind of twisted, you could go for the Toxic Orb on your own Tatsugiri, get Toxic Poison, and then just let Tatsugiri whittle itself down with its own poisoning. Or you could just try to time it just right to get Dondozo in Tatsugiri to combine with it so that Tatsugiri gives Dondozo the boosts, and then for Tatsugiri to faint shortly afterwards due to its own poisoning. So you could potentially time that, but really having +2 Dondozo on the field with a partner Pokemon is not impossible, and I think it could be relatively scary. Now, another thing you could do instead, though, is you could take out Dondozo and Tatsugiri, hence why we didn't have any IVs/EVs specifically built, and you could look into some redirection, like say maybe you want to go for the Rage Powder route. Well, maybe you could go for Volcarona. Now you have some nice fire type coverage there. You could have the Rocky Helmet on it. You could have a backup Tailwind mode. You could also go for Sinistcha as well, and now instead of a backup Tailwind mode, though, you have a backup Trick Room mode, and plus Hospitality can heal things. Or you could have that Amoonguss. And now this way, if Trick Room goes up, well, now you not only have Redirection, you also have very, very fast Spore. So you do have that. Or you have Venomoth. I'm joking. But anyways, yeah, you can have like Amoonguss, you can have Sinistcha, you can have Volcarona for a little bit of redirection support with Rage Powder on a Regulation H team. Or you could go the Follow Me route. And obviously, you could go with Indeedee or Mousehold in Regulation H, especially since Archaludon would be really, really terrifying to deal with. Like, you could just throw in Mousehold here with the Follow Me and Arch. And then maybe what you could do is instead of having Kilowattrel, you could switch in Pelipper. And now you have a Rain mode with access to Wide Guard, Tailwind. Archaludon would have access to Electroshot. And plus you would have Stamina Body Press, which Mousehold would be able to enable with Population Bomb into Archaludon. So you could have that for a Regulation H team, which could be really terrifying. And then just for some more Follow Me options, you could have Unaware Clefable, which is a very reliable redirection mon since it doesn't care about any stat boosts. So you could definitely use Clefable there, or you could go for Indeedee as well, have Psychic Terrain, and then that way, maybe if you don't want to have Rillaboom and Indeedee colliding with terrains, maybe you switch in Incineroar for Rillaboom instead. And now you have a really strong option as well. And then, too, you do have Electabuzz and Magmar, both of which are great redirection mons. And plus, they can't be put to sleep thanks to their hidden ability of Vital Spirit. So, yeah, you could have something like that. Plus, Electabuzz has base 105 speed. Like, you could also teach it Rain Dance if you really wanted to and just have a backup plan in case Pelipper goes down. So that's what I was kind of thinking for Regulation H Gardevoir. Now, let's talk about a more powerful format and some crazy ideas you might be able to get away with Gardevoir. So for Gardevoir, with Regulation I in mind, I was thinking you could maybe do something like this. You could pair Gardevoir with Miraidon and Calyrex Ice Rider while having Incineroar and Iron Hands on the field for not only being decent fake out support. I know I just called Incineroar decent instead of goated, but you could have some decent fake out support with Iron Hands and Incineroar while also having some strong damage potential as well, since Iron Hands would naturally get a Quark Drive boost from Miraidon's electric terrain, and it can do a lot of damage with either a boosted attack, Quark Drive, Drain Punch, or Wild Charge, and plus electric terrain would also give Wild Charge extra damage. And then you could have Sinisha for recovery with Hospitality and Rage Powder support. And then you can have plenty of Trick Room options here. You could have it on Gardevoir, you could have it on the Calyrex, you could have it on the Sinisha. And here you don't necessarily have to run a clear amulet. You could experiment and go with the weakness policy and have some fun, because maybe what you're doing with your Calyrex, maybe you're going into quite a bit of an attack boost right here, and then you got your nice HP bulk, and we'll say maybe an Adamant Nature. Put some into our special defense. Actually, we're going to put the rest into our special defense. And then we're just going to take advantage of the fact that Gardevoir has a really weak Shadow Sneak. And you can do that. Into the Calyrex, activate a weakness policy. Bada bing, bada boom. Trick Room goes up. Bam! Glacial Lance next turn with a Helping Hand support. You could have that. And plus, you could also have Sinisha come in and naturally heal Calyrex if Gardevoir goes down, or even just pivot it in. You could have the Rage Powder option right there. You've got your speed pretty much covered with Miraidon. You could have Specs Discharge Miraidon next to Gardevoir, just egging it on with that Helping Hand. You could go for Draco Meteor just to destroy something, and then maybe Gardevoir goes for the Trick Room instead. You pivot out the Miraidon into Incineroar, because you don't necessarily want to open Calyrex up into that. Maybe Gardevoir goes down, then Calyrex comes in, and then you can just have some fun from there. So yeah, I was thinking that could be really fun for a Regulation I team in mind. Now, what about Regulation J? Well, I think you could keep a lot of this still similar, but I think you could have some fun changing some things out. Like maybe instead of having the Shadow Sneak on Gardevoir, maybe you change it to have Icy Wind. And then this way, if you're going into like a speedier mode, like maybe instead of having Calyrex here, maybe you go for Arceus for Regulation J. Maybe you have that Arceus, whereas it does have the base 120 across the board and the ability to switch into whatever type it wants. Yeah. Well, I mean, it doesn't really switch types. It has a plate item to determine its type. But yeah, you can build your Arceus to be whatever type you want. If you go on the special attacking side of things, you have Judgment right there, which will naturally change type to match the plate item. The plate item will give you a 20% boost. So yeah, you can do that. Or, you know, because Arceus does have 120 in everything, you could go for the physical side. So you could be a revenge killer with extreme speed, so long as there's no anti-priority on the field. So you do have that. And really, the world is your cloister at this point. Like, you could potentially just do Arceus. If you don't want to do Arceus, you could have Magearna and then keep that Trick Room mode with Sinisha and Gardevoir. And maybe this time, instead of switching out Calyrex, maybe you switch in Miraidon, or switch out Miraidon. Maybe Miraidon is no longer on the team and you have Calyrex instead. And then this way, what's fun is Magearna naturally gains a boost with its Soul Heart ability whenever anything faints. So if Calyrex picks up a double knockout, well, Magearna's also going to get a special attack boost. And Magearna's got some pretty good bulk with that 115 in both of its defenses, the 80 in its HP, and then its natural Steel Fairy typing. So that could be really scary in Regulation J, the combination of Magearna and Calyrex. Now, I don't really think you're going to be having to worry about your partner Pokemon just potentially hitting the Gardevoir in this case. So maybe what you could do is you could change your item around, maybe throw on a Covert Cloak so you don't have to worry about Fake Out, and maybe you can up the potential change into your ability and maybe consider running Synchronize or Trace. And then this way too, if you get a status condition with Synchronize, you can just put that back on the opponent that gave it to Gardevoir. Or you could try to steal an ability. Maybe you steal Prankster with Gardevoir, and then now you have a fun fast priority with status moves on Gardevoir. Or, yeah, actually, just think about that. Like, Gardevoir gets Thunder Wave. You imagine you steal Prankster with Trace, and then you have Prankster Thunder Wave Gardevoir with Covert Cloak. Like, that could be fun. And you can start slowing some things down as well. So, like, yeah. So I certainly think we've talked a lot about what Gardevoir can do. I think it has its niches and its tricks up its sleeve that make it an entertaining prospect. This is actually the second attempt at trying to get this video out. I originally had a full-on video discussing Gardevoir for Regulation I, and then we got the Regulation J announcement as well as the return of Regulation H for the competitive circuit. And rather than just trying to record some bits and insert it into the pre-recorded footage, I thought it would be best to just start the entire thing off fresh and go from there. Let me know what you think of Gardevoir down in the comments below, and I will certainly see you there. And if you enjoy content like this or battle content, I certainly do both. I do try to make discussion videos for different Pokemon that I think could be spicy and creative for team building, while also experimenting with Pokemon as well. So if this is your first time seeing my face, check out the channel because I got plenty more where the stuff like this came from. Anyways, catch you later. Aha, it's me, editing Shucko. I'm even wearing a different shirt and in a different position to show that the passage of time has happened. You thought you were done with me, but here I am to more or less let you know that the next video is actually going to be delayed a little bit until early next week, but that's because I have a big announcement to make in that video that I am super excited about, and I don't want you guys to worry something happened to me in the meanwhile, because, yeah, you guys might actually like me. But anyways, big announcement for next week, and it's going to be another discussion video similar to today. I'll let you in on a little hint. It's going to be on a Regulation J-mon. So now, be sure to comment down below which mon you think it is, and I'm going to give you a hint right now. It's actually not Arceus, despite the fact that I've been talking about it in anything in regards to Regulation J. For once, it actually isn't. Comment down below which Pokemon you think it is. And anyways, I will see you guys sometime early next week once I have finished working on the thing that this announcement is going to be around. Anyways, now you're done with me. See you later. Or are you? Nah, I'm just kidding. Anyways, see you later.